Hello and welcome to Module 2 of Dance Music Production for Beginners using Reason. In this module, we're going to use the subtractor machine to create a bass line for our tune. We're going to start by opening up the Module 2 session file that you downloaded from the Sonic Academy website by simply double-clicking on the icon. First, we're going to load up a subtractor machine into our rack window by scrolling up to Create and selecting Subtractor Analog Synthesizer. Next, we need to pick a sound for our subtractor machine. We can do this by simply scrolling down to the Browse Patch button and clicking. This then opens the Patch Browser window. All the sounds that come with the Reason program are stored within the Reason Factory Sound Bank. We can access that by simply clicking on the name within the patch browser. We then need to scroll down to find the patches for the subtractor machine, and we access them by double-clicking on the folder. We're creating a bass line, so we want to select the bass folder. There are a number of different patches available for this machine, so I'm going to scroll down and select one. I'm going to use the chronic bass sound. To load this patch, we simply click on the name and click OK. Now we can see that the patch has been loaded into the machine. To preview the sound, we simply click on the sequencer window and press any of the keyboard notes on the left-hand side of the screen. In this instance, we're dealing with a pitched instrument, so we have the full range of the keyboard to choose our notes from. We can zoom in on the notes on the keyboard by simply clicking the small magnifying glass icons in the top right-hand corner of our screen. Before we start sequencing our bass line, I'm going to change the loop to 1 bar by clicking on the right locator and scrolling it back to the end of bar 1. Now we're ready to start sequencing our bass line. We can scroll up to our toolbar and select our pencil tool. We're going to start with something quite basic. So I'm going to click in a note here, here, and here. Let's play that round to see what it sounds like. Okay, now we can start adding some more notes to make the bass line a bit more interesting. We can reposition any of these notes by simply scrolling up to our toolbar, selecting the cursor, and moving the notes to where we want them to go. Okay, that sounds good, but we can change the length of the notes to make it sound a bit better. To do this, we simply click on each note. You can now see that a small black square appears at the end. If we scroll our mouse over the top, it'll turn into a double arrow. This allows us to change the length of the note to whatever we want. I'm going to extend each one out to make the notes of the bass line last a bit longer. We can solo our bass line to hear it independently from our drum beat. To do this, we simply scroll up and click the small S button beside our subtractor. And let's play that back to see what it sounds like. When choosing the notes for your bass line, make sure that they're not too low so that you can't hear them, or that they're not too high so they're no longer bassy. Let's take the solo off the bass line and hear what it sounds like next to our beats. Okay, that sounds good, but one thing I've noticed is that the overall sound coming through the mixer is distorting a little bit. We can fix this by simply turning down the master volume. Now that we've finished our bass line, it's a good idea to save our session. We do this by scrolling up to File and selecting Save. An important thing to remember while creating your bass line is not to make it too complicated. Alongside the beats, this is one of the most important parts of your tune, so it's best to be simple but effective. Another tip for creating good bass lines is to listen to tracks that you like within the same genre. This will give you lots of ideas for your own bass line. Okay, in this module, we've used a subtractor to create a bass line. In the next module, we'll be using a sampler to create a filtered synth part.